Hey love bugs, welcome back to another Tarot Lover Reviews. And in the season of Halloween, the next tarot deck we are going to take a look at is the 13 Tarot or Tarot 13 by Necro. So if you've heard of this tarot deck or you have not heard of this tarot deck, hopefully this review and the flip through that comes afterwards helps you to decide on whether or not this tarot deck is right for you. Now, if you want to skip straight to the flip through, take a look down in my description. I break down all of the suits into chapters for you to find exactly where in the video you would like to start and review the flip through. But right now we're going to talk about the packaging. We're going to talk about the guidebook, and we're going to talk about the cards, card imagery, naming convention, card stock, card size, everything. So if you're interested in the details, stick around. Otherwise, feel free to move on over to the flip through. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging. So this is what the packaging looks like, and it is your typical tuck box, slip box, however you call it. I know there's just a number of different ways you can call these, but it is your average box that you would find just a regular tarot deck in. Now, I know over the years, the tarot world, when it comes to the packaging, has gotten more elaborate, and the packaging has gotten a lot thicker, which I do appreciate because I feel like with thicker packaging, it protects the cards a lot better than boxes like this. So that is the packaging. Let's talk about the guidebook. Now, the guidebook is interesting. So this is what the guidebook looks like. Okay. It does come in several languages. So you have Spanish, English, French, Dutch, and Portuguese in this guidebook. But it's interesting how the guidebook opens. So it opens like this, and then you flip through to find the language that you need. Okay. Now, when it comes to what information you receive with each card, the major arcana has a sentence for a description of the card, but for the most part, and for each of the minor arcana, you get upright and reversal key words. You do not get anything other than keywords. But what I do love about this guidebook and always appreciate is that, if I can find the page, there we go. What I do appreciate is that they have a tarot spread. This one looks a lot like the Celtic Cross, but it comes with a tarot spread, which I greatly appreciate because at least it gives you a tarot spread to utilize with your tarot deck. It's not necessarily theme specific, but still you have something to work with. But yeah, pretty straightforward guidebook. I just find it interesting the way that they decided to fold this up into the box. Anyways, let's talk about the cards. Now, the back of the cards look like so. Okay. And there is a slight gloss to it, but for the most part, it is a matte finish. I do feel that the cards do slip around a bit. And I believe when you watch the flip through, if there's air that gets just a little bit underneath the cards, they kind of slip on their own. So it is a little bit slippery, but you can always purchase the fanning powder to help with the slipperiness of the cards and make them not so slippery. But yeah, that is the texture, the back of the cards. The cards themselves are standard, but a little bit smaller in size. So I wanted to give you an example. Here is a standard Rider-Waite-Smith tarot card. So you can see it almost looks like it's a standard size card, but it is a little bit smaller. So it does make it a lot easier to handle when you're shuffling. The cardstock. Let's talk cardstock. The cardstock is a little bit on the thinner side, but it's definitely an ideal, I guess you can say. I always feel like tarot cards that come in this type of box tend to be a little too thin, in my opinion. They're not super thin, A lot of tarot readers may enjoy this type of cardstock. It doesn't feel paper thin. There is some thickness to it to hold its integrity, but it's a little too thin for me, in my opinion. If I can do this, it's a little too thin for me. I only want to be able to do that much. I like my cardstock thick. Not too thick, but thick enough to know that if I shuffle, and I constantly shuffle, it's not going to alter the shape of the card when it lays flat. Definitely, I feel like with this tarot deck, the more you utilize it, the more your tarot deck is going to start like bending and staying that way, which I don't really prefer. But again, to each their own. But that is the cardstock. A pretty ideal cardstock, especially if you are a poker style shuffler. You know what I mean? Or what they call a riffle shuffle. So if you shuffle like this, this deck is ideal for sure. Definitely makes for an easy shuffle that way. But I don't like how easily I'm able to bend it, because I don't want to cause my cards to stay that bent, if that makes sense. So, yeah. But anyways, like I said, you're not obligated. You don't have to shuffle in that manner. You can always do that under over shuffle that a lot of us tend to do. Or if you just feel comfortable just splitting it and doing it that way, splitting again and doing it that whatever way works best for you is what I'm trying to say. So that is the cardstock. Let's talk about the naming convention and the imagery in this tarot deck. I do my comparisons based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. The reason why I do that is because a lot of the guidebooks out there that you can purchase are based off of the imagery and naming conventions of the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. Same thing with a lot of the tarot decks out there. A lot of tarot decks out there that have been created really use a lot of the imagery from the Rider-Waite-Smith to create the imagery on their own cards. You know, they pull heavily, or, you know, they're very heavily inspired by the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. So I like to mention the similarities, the differences when it comes to that tarot deck, because it gives you something to go off of. Okay, so let's talk about the naming convention. Naming convention is pretty much the same. It is the same. It does come in different languages. So the 4 languages that I mentioned, they are reflected on each of the cards in the corners. So that is helpful as well. I want to double check. I don't think the Pentacles were different. I just realized when I shuffled in a way that made my cards go upside down, and that kind of bothers me when especially I'm trying to do a review. So let me just kind of flip them over so I can easily find the cards that I'm referring to. Yeah, so naming convention, Pentacles, Cups, Wands, and Swords are all the same. So the naming convention is perfect. Major Arcana, same way. The major arcana names are the same naming convention as the Rider-Waite-Smith, so that is perfect. When it comes to the naming conventions of the court cards, I'm trying to give you an example here. Okay, so when it comes to the court cards, I want to make sure they didn't change on. Okay, so the only difference with the court cards in the minor arcana is the pages. So the page in this deck is called the knaves, which is not uncommon. That you'll see that a lot in some of the other tarot decks out there. The page will be called the knave. Let's talk about the imagery for a moment here. This is definitely 100% a pip deck. If you do not know what a pip deck is, a pip deck is, it involves the minor arcana. The minor arcana do not tell a story from numbers 2, or technically from ace to 10. They do not tell you a story like the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck would. Okay, so for example, we'll use the Five of Wands as an example. So if you Google, think back in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, the Five of Wands has 5 people with very large sticks looking like they're arguing and fighting with each other, right? With those sticks. That's the Rider-Waite-Smith. It is telling you a story. A pip deck will look something like this, where it literally has only that particular icon, suit icon shown on the card and nothing else. So the bird skulls or the raven skulls are the wands in this suit. So literally all you receive is 5 skulls, and that's it. There's not much to go off of when it comes to pip decks. So people who are visually inspired when they read will have a hard time finding inspiration with pip decks. Doesn't mean you can't utilize them. It just means that you need to have a level of understanding to each of these cards within the tarot to know exactly what that card is and what that card is trying to convey. So it does make it difficult for newer tarot readers to be able to utilize pip decks like this because they might be starting off with the Rider-Waite-Smith. That actually tells you a story with each of their minor arcana. So that is that. So definitely 100%, it does not follow the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery whatsoever. But before I get into the major arcana, the minor arcana's court cards are beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. The artwork of Necro is beautiful. It's gothic. It is the level of detail is what I'm trying to say is just chef's kiss. I can't even talk. But yeah, let me show you, like, seriously, the major arcana are just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's just like, oh my gosh. Like, the Magician is just insane. It's beautiful. The major arcana is what caught my eye. And of course, that is typically what is depicted on the previews when looking at this tarot deck online. Is you can see the major arcana. They do not show you the minor arcana. So it's a bit deceiving when you're trying to decide on whether or not you want this tarot deck because you don't know that it's a pip deck. Hence why I do these videos, ladies and gentlemen. That is why. So hopefully this review has helped you in some way. If it has, leave a like and take a look at my channel. See if there are any other tarot decks that I've reviewed that you might be interested in. If there is not that review you're looking for, if you have not seen me do a review on a particular tarot deck you're interested in, send me a message, comment below, and let me know what that is so that I can look into it and see if I have that tarot deck. If I don't have it, you just gave me a reason to purchase another one. Thank you. But without further ado, here is the flip through. Enjoy, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.